commitment to safety in our communities through our Safer Communities and Neighborhood Plan. What that included was the addition of 100 communities across Saskatchewan that utilize municipal police forces, including 17 here in the community of Prince Albert. We doubled the number of SCAN officers, or Safer Community and Neighborhood officers, from 14 to 28. Since 2011, we have added 192 RCMP officers into Saskatchewan communities. Today and previous today to the writ, we had committed to funding an additional 180 RCMP officers on top of those 192 that have been added. Another 180 officers being added into Saskatchewan communities. And on top of all of those investments and commitments is, of course, the 70 provincial marshals that will arrive, be based out of Prince Albert, but will be there to support our police forces, whether it be the RCMP or municipal police forces across Saskatchewan. All told, this is over 500 additional police officers that are being added to enforcement in Saskatchewan communities, but been added to provide that very community safety that we desire. In addition to that, there's been the addition of the Warrant Intelligence Team to track down any large offenders that may be present in our province, and of course the Provincial and Protection Response Team, which is 258 armed officers who help us in the response times and provide increased police presence, in particular an increased police presence in many of our rural communities. We know that an increased police presence and assistance, that helps to keep our neighborhood safe. Helps keep each and every one of our neighborhoods safe. In many cases, presence is prevention. While we need more police officers and we need them in the right places, we also need the right laws. And strengthen the laws that we have. And that's why a re-elected Saskatchewan Party government is going to strengthen the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act, or the piece of legislation that we have as a province, as well as any other pieces of legislation, so that we're able to address issues like public intoxication, vandalism, loitering, and nuisance properties that are in our communities. An example of one of these measures is allowing businesses to designate the police force to have the authority to access their properties at any point in time. This allows police to remove unwanted individuals that may be looking to cause harm to a property or to a person, to remove them from that property without having to contact the owner and receive their permission to do so. The Moose Jaw Police Force has recently started a pilot project with their downtown measure, and I would say that it is working and working quite well. Over the past number of years, it's been very apparent that much of the increase in crime in our communities, our province, and I would dare say our nation and our continent, stems from drugs. And while we will get the scourge of drugs off our streets and out of the hands of our friends and family and our community members, we also need to ensure that we're doing the proper work to get the drug dealers out of our communities. We know that any plan to fight crime must also include options for individuals. All too often in our communities, it's our friends and our family members, but options for individuals to break free from addictions, recovery options. Those individuals who have fallen into a life of addictions, they need care and they need our support. Individuals that we know, as I say, the drugs that are present today are no longer a community away. They are in our community and they are impacting our friends and all too often our family. And they deserve the opportunity to access a recovery space. And that's why our government is taking a very coordinated approach. It's not just about policing. It's not just recovery opportunities. And we have made significant investments in addition to these 500 police officers since 2011, like 500 additional recovery beds and options which is we have entered a life of addictions and are looking to make a change. We've created complex needs emergency shelters in both Regina and Saskatoon, and these are not the different type of service. Police are now able to take people to a medically supported but also a secure facility. Those who pose a danger to themselves or someone else are then given treatment options in that. And that is what is very much a pilot program we've seen nearly 400 people that have accessed those services in those complex needs shelters in both Saskatoon and Regina. And I'm happy to report that over 95% of them have taken the option to be referred to addiction services. This is people that are reaching out to help themselves when given the opportunity. We have new urgent care centers in Regina and very shortly in Saskatoon. Developments that for people that may need help, challenge that they're having, or unfortunately may have entered a life of addictions and are ready to make that intake and that access. The medical health professionals that can support them in their road to recovery. People in Saskatchewan on October, people have a choice this election. They have a choice between the NDP, who will make it easier for access drugs and make it harder for our friends and family, party, who are making it easier to get treatment, harder, between the NDP, who prioritize decriminalization and safe supply and to access the illegal and illicit drugs that we're safe. The same conversation. A choice between the NDP, who will cut the numbers of police officers that we have in our community by cutting them with Saskatchewan Marshal Service. The doorbell camera that isn't even uncosted, so not even the doorbell camera is uncosted, and so not. You have the Saskatchewan Party, who is already committed to providing since 20, including right here in Prince Albert, police officers and better access to treatment. That's the Saskatchewan Party's plan for safer communities and safer neighborhoods for you and for myself and for every family in this province. Now, we have a multi-plan to creating that safer communities and neighborhoods. That plan is the recovery capacity and beds supports that are being provided. But part of that is also enforcement. And we have our minister government had, and this party has moving forward to enforcing, keeping our streets. Our Minister of Justice will opportunities that we have to enhance the laws and advocate, provincially and municipally, but also advocate for changes to the that we are keeping our communities safe, but also of this is offering those recovery opportunities for people that live in our towns, people that are all too often have succumbed to mental health challenges and addictions challenges and are Paul and then.
Well, thank you very much, Premier. As the Premier mentioned, a mental health and addictions that was unveiled a little over a year ago. 3, double the number of addiction treatment spaces that we offer in Saskatchewan. Adding 500 across the geography, adding them across the continuum of individuals at the front end of addiction, if that's where they need the service, or transitioning them right through the entire continuum of care. This pillar of that plan is to improve the system itself, to improve access to those spaces, making it easier for people who are battling addiction services that they need. And the third and probably most critical pillar is to system of care. Is wrapping supports around individuals, not just treating the addiction, but treating the individual addiction, treating the underlying trauma, and transition them back into our communities so that they can live safe, healthy lives in recovery.
Premier, and just to build on what Premier has said, we need those police officers out there to be the first point of contact when somebody is struggling on our streets, in our communities, or in our parks. 100 across every municipality that has a police force will have an increase in policing. That's why we've added in 180 RCMP officers. We've written the federal government. We're awaiting their response to be able to fund these officers, as we have a contractual agreement with them that we fund 70% and they fund 30%. Money's on the table. We need the federal government to step up and be able to fund these RCMP officers in our province and across Canada. On top of that, that's going to be seated right here in Prince Albert, is our Marshal Service, which we have a very good support for across our province. People understand that the Marshals are here to support the RCMP, support the municipal policing, support our First Nation policing, to make sure that they need. So the police are that, again, that first point to decide whether the individual will go in the emergency room, whether they need individual, and maybe they do need to go into cells, but how can we integrate as a police service into what Tim McLeod is talking about and getting people out of that cycle of dependency? So it's critically important, as the Premier identified. I think people in Saskatchewan would rather see a police car rolling down their street and patrolling in their neighborhood than a doorbell cam sitting on their front porch. We need to see the police officers, we need to feel safe in our communities, and we will continue to bring more police officers into our communities so we can help people that need some help.
Thank you. So obviously our goal is to do everything we can to empower police and keep communities and businesses, make changes to legislation and form government in three main areas. Under the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act, we are going to and abandoned properties where there is repeated break and where we're seeing gang activity, trafficking activity, and gang activity. And we are going to make it easier to issue community safety orders to address those properties. Make expropriate and demolish those vacant, abandoned in the sense that if you're engaged in behavior in a mall, for example, you are verbally. The default implication is going to be that you are not welcome, that you are not there with the consent of the business owner, and can be removed. And this really will establish areas. And to look at enhancing police can, in some cases, to remove loiterers, trespassers, behavior from their businesses, from that private, particularly outside business hours, through agency. So a business will identify the police as someone who can deal with these issues and act on their behalf. And we really want to harmonize that and centralize the system so that it's the active across the province, working with business and police enforcement to do that, so that business owners are aware that they can do this, and to really harmonize those efforts to protect them and keep their businesses safe.
What you're seeing by the Saskatchewan Party committing into the future is essentially an all of the above approach. 500 more police officers, 500 more recovery beds, and ensuring that we have the laws, whether they be municipal, provincial, or advocate at the federal level for the laws to keep our communities and our neighborhoods safe. A Saskatchewan Party that will offer more cops, will offer more laws, and more opportunities for recovery. versus an NDP party that will offer less cops and is going to cut the amount of police officers in our community. Will be looking to legalize drugs like they have, and will diminish or lessen the recovery opportunities that we have for our friends and for our family member, but they'll buy you a doorbell camera. Any questions? Yes.